The real Dracula, the terrifying truth about Vlad, the Impaler. Before Dracula was a vampire in horror films, he was a real man, and he was even more terrifying. This is the true story of Vlad the Impaler, a 5th century Romanian ruler whose cruelty and bloodlust became legend. He didn't drink blood, but his enemies surely shed plenty of it. This long-forgotten historical figure inspired Bram Stoker's iconic Count Dracula. But the truth goes deeper, darker, and far more gruesome. Prepare for a journey through medieval Europe, political, betrayal, war, psychological, terror, and the legend that refuses to die. The birth of a monster. Vlad was born in 1431 in the town of Siasaara in Transylvania. His father, Vlad II Dracula, was a member of the Order of the Dragon, a Christian military order sworn to protect Europe from the rising Ottoman Empire. The name Dracula means dragon, and so young Vlad inherited the name Dracula, or son of the dragon. Wallachia, the region he would one day rule, was caught in a brutal tug-of war between the Christian Kingdom of Hungary and the Muslim Ottoman Empire. His family was constantly under threat. While his brother Radu grew close to the Ottoman court and even befriended the Sultan, Vlad became bitter, isolated, and filled with rage. But his early life was filled with chaos. When he returned to Wallachia, the throne had changed hands multiple times. At just 25 years old, Vlad III Dracula became voivode of Wallachia. In 1442, when Vlad was just 11 years old, he and his younger brother Radu were taken hostage by the Ottoman Empire. Their father gave him up as a guarantee of his loyalty. He created a legal system that punished thieves and liars harshly, often with death. After feeding them a lavish feast, he had them all impaled on stakes. Vlad made sure their fate would serve as a warning to everyone else. He despised the powerful Bojars, the local nobility, who had betrayed his family. His revenge was legendary. When Vlad was eventually released, he had one mission: reclaim his throne and take revenge. Vlad spent years as a political prisoner. During this time, he was educated in science, literature, warfare, and languages. But he also witnessed cruelty, death, and manipulation. This time in captivity forged a cold, calculating survivor. The prince returns. The stake would be inserted through the body, sometimes vertically, and the victim was left alive to suffer. Death could take hours, or even days. He impaled criminals, traitors, invading soldiers, and even people he thought were lazy or dishonest. Vlad had the hat nailed to his head, saying it would help him remember his manners. Vlad's father and eldest brother were murdered by rival nobles while he was still a prisoner. He even disguised himself as a Turk and infiltrated enemy camps. He made several attempts to seize power, eventually succeeding in 1456 with the backing of Hungarian forces. But he didn't just take the throne, he transformed the nation. He was seen as a Christian warrior who stood against overwhelming odds. That's how effective his reign of terror was. Wallachia was plagued by corruption, crime, and treason. Vlad responded with swift, brutal justice. Others view him as a sadistic killer who reveled in torture. In one of his most infamous acts, he invited hundreds of boyars to a grand banquet. To Westerners, he's the real-life Dracula, crueler than fiction. German and Ottoman accounts likely exaggerated the numbers and the cruelty. As far as the eye could see, 20,000 rotting corpses lined the landscape. Soldiers, traitors, and spies, all skewered on tall stakes. Why? These nobles had conspired against his father. The art of impalement. Vlad became famous, or infamous, for his gruesome executions. His favorite method: he took the name, added vampire myths from Eastern Europe, and created Count Dracula, a blood-sucking undead nobleman. Victims were impaled on large wooden stakes that were sharpened but rounded at the end. His body, lost to time. His burial site is still a mystery, though some claim he's buried at Snag. This method wasn't random. Vlad believed in using fear to maintain order. One chilling story tells of a foreign ambassador who refused to remove his hat in Vlad's presence. When he returned, he reclaimed the throne one last time, but it didn't last. Dozens of movies, shows, books, and games keep reimagining Dracula. Statues and coins bear his image. Schools and streets carry his name. In another tale, Vlad set up a golden cup in the public square of his capital city Targovik. No one dared steal it. War with the Ottoman. But Vlad's most famous showdown came with the mighty Ottoman Empire. In 1462, Sultan Mahmud II, who had conquered Constantinople, marched into Wallachia with a massive army. He expected an easy victory. Instead, he encountered the forest of the impaled. The sight was so horrifying that the Sultan turned back. Vlad also employed guerrilla tactics, launching surprise attacks at night, poisoning wells, and burning villages so the Ottomans couldn't find supplies. In one daring move, he tried to assassinate the Sultan himself in a night raid. Though ultimately defeated and forced into exile, Vlad had earned the respect and fear of Europe. Legend or lunatic, was Vlad a hero or a psychopath? Historians are still divided. Some saw him as a necessary evil, a ruler who used terror to bring law and order. Reports say he watched executions while eating meals, that he boiled people alive, that he impaled women who cheated and burned beggars alive. But it's also important to note, much of what we know comes from his enemies. To Romanians, Vlad remains a symbol of resistance and justice. Bram Stoker's Dracula. Centuries later, in 1897, Irish author Bram Stoker wrote Dracula, a gothic horror novel that became a worldwide sensation. Stoker never visited Romania, but he found the name Dracula in his research and learned about Vlad's brutal methods. The real Vlad never drank blood, but his enemies bled plenty. The fusion of myth and history birthed the cultural icon, and forever linked Vlad to the world of horror, death, and mystery. Vlad was eventually betrayed and captured. He was imprisoned for years in Hungary. In 1476, Vlad was killed in battle. Some say his own men murdered him by mistake. Others say he was ambushed by assassins. His head was cut off and sent to the Ottoman Sultan as a trophy. The Dracula legacy today. Vlad's legacy is a strange mix of tourism, horror, and patriotism. In Romania, he's still celebrated as a national hero. In pop culture, he's the eternal vampire. And tourists flock to Bran Castle, known as Dracula's castle, although Vlad likely never lived there. But the real man? His story is more horrifying and more fascinating than fiction. Vlad the Impaler was a ruler who used terror as his weapon. He faced overwhelming enemies, betrayal, and war, and left behind a legacy soaked in blood and mystery. He wasn't immortal, but the legend he inspired may live forever. Like this video if you learned something new, subscribe for more hidden and shocking stories from history, and comment below. Was Vlad a hero or a monster?